Today, we're going to be talking about the 4 pillars that every profit-led business needs to implement and adopt inside of our businesses to put more profit in our pockets and get to higher valuations, better terms on investment, and larger exit multiples. First and foremost, before we get started, if you'd like to adopt these 4 pillars, then inside of the Profit-Led Owner's Handbook, we break down each and every single one of these 4 pillars and how to implement it inside of your business. So this is just going to be a high-level overview video where it's going to give you the context around each of the four levers of pillars. However, if you'd like to actually implement these inside of your business, then you're going to be able to follow the instructions inside of the Profit-Led Owner's Handbook. Right? So the 4 pillars that we're going to be talking about, they're all tied to the equity management system, and they're designed intentionally to help profit-led business owners navigate and ultimately master each of the 5 exits of ownership, right? So as business owners, we're always exiting, whether we want to or not. It is what it is. Time is the only consistency and things move forward, right? And because of that, we're always exiting. And we've been able to break down exiting to 5 simple journeys or stops on our journey. It's just like how you eat a cake, one bite at a time, right? How do you build and ultimately exit out successfully your business? Well, one exit at a time, and everything starts somewhere. The way that we've designed things when we implement the equity management system inside of our business and how we adopt each of these 4 pillars inside of our business is really bespoke based on each individual exit, right? So every business is unique and each exit is also unique. We don't really appreciate or believe in the kind of one size fits all approach that a lot of these other kind of like operating systems or business systems or what folks are out there kind of teach, train, equipping to implement inside of your business. We don't necessarily believe that that's the right type of approach because every business is different, right? So the way that we've tried to do it is take it bite-sized, compartmentalized, and then give you the freedom to decide, with the tools, the structure, strategies, and through our community, the accountability, to be able to implement the right version of this structure to be able to adopt the right strategies with the right level of accountability for you in your business to be able to get to simple, profitable outcomes, right? But all of this is designed with intentionality, and it would be different, based on exit. However, the pillars are all the same. We found 4 core pillars that every profit-led business needs to adopt, needs to install or implement or build around foundationally inside of your business. And then ultimately, once you go through it the first time, right, and once you lay that strong foundation, we've been able to simplify even more because simple works, but simple is not always easy, right? So sometimes you gotta lay the foundation proper, right, so that you can then simplify on top of it, make it a little bit more livable. For us, we have the 4 core pillars. It's organize around profit, standardize around product, simplify around process, and then ultimately optimize around people. And then once you lay it the first time, so once you go through it the first time, you implement your equity management system, you adopt each of the 4 pillars based off of whichever exit you are currently. Then we're going to simplify. And the very next step of the journey is to go from 4 focused pillars to 2. And we're going to optimize around profit and ultimately, or we're going to organize around profit, and then ultimately optimize around people, right? So we only have to focus on 2 things. Why? Because less is often more, right? And when we can focus, strategy equals focus, the likelihood of us achieving profit-led outcomes or simple profitable outcomes is higher, right? Again, simple works, but simple is not always easy. The best way to get to simple is to break it down into small bite-sized chunks. For us, the first pillar we're going to talk about is one of the core pillars that you're always going to be able to have and adopt and focus on, which is organize around profit, right? So when we talk about organizing around profit, we're really talking about establishing a disciplined framework to ensure that your decisions are all aligned with driving profitability and sustainability inside of your business, right? So really this pillar is emphasizing the importance of going deep into the financial clarity of your business, making sure you're very clear on your profit objectives and you're tracking, the metrics that matter so you can measure what matters inside of driving your business forward, right? We also want to make sure that we're ending up with the right level of profit in our pocket from ownership of our business. So we're going to make sure that our profit-led waterfalls and allocations are flowing through properly. Ultimately, at the end of the day, organizing around profit helps us get clarity and it helps us get focus so that we can focus inside of the strategy, specifically that North Star strategy inside of our business, knowing what that strong left of financials are so that we can make good, timely decisions, right? So when we're talking about organizing around profit, the key is to maintain consistency, right? And to make sure that we have disciplined oversight around our business in the throughput or the profit engine, right? The throughput flowing through it, right? What you're going to see is each one of our pillars complements the next and in a very functional way makes the other one better. So why is it important to organize around profit? Well, organizing around profit gives you a clear grasp of your financials to make sure that you're making and taking data-driven decisions inside of your business, avoiding any potential cash flow issues, which ultimately we know that lack of capital and realistically lack of cash flow are the top causes for the majority of businesses to fail, to go out of business. And we know statistically, upwards of 50% or more of small businesses are going out of business within those first 5 years. We're on this mission to be able to help you, every profit-led business owner, survive that first 5 years in business and then ultimately go on to thrive all 5 exits of ownership. Organizing around profit is a very key step in the right direction of accomplishing that goal, right? The secondary profit-focused businesses or profit-led businesses have higher valuations, better terms on investment, and larger exit multiples. And they're more resilient when it comes time to, when bad times cycle around, right? Because a profit-led business that's organized around, profit has a better understanding and grasp of the financial situation, better budgeting, processes in place, right? Better cash flow management, right? Understanding, what goes into keeping the business alive. It's a more sustainable business. And because it's more sustainable, it's likely to, or higher probability of surviving any downturns. And because it's defensible against the downturn, that means that it's, positioned well for the upside, right? If you can get rid of risk, then you're left with reward. And because you're left with reward, it's a less risky business. You're in a position to get higher valuations, better terms on investment, because the funny thing about capital is it tends to find its way to the people that don't necessarily need it, right? So if you want to make sure that you're in a position to be capital ready, then get your business exit ready, right? And don't need the capital, because then you'll get better terms on investment. And ultimately, when it comes time to sell, larger exit multiples. And all of this also organizing around profit gives us the clarity to be able to make the decisions, the financial decisions, and be able to identify where we can boost or improve overall profitability when it comes time to making real-time decisions. Because at the end of the day, our job as owners, we're primarily capital allocators, and we have to make good, timely decisions, right? Good, timely decisions. And organizing our profit and having a pulse of that is a great way to functionally be able to achieve that. So the mindset shift that needs to take place in order to be able to successfully organize around profit is shifting from a reactive financial management to more of a proactive financial management strategy, right? Traditional accounting, we're closing our books out, right? It's by definition a reactive thing. We're closing it out, we're analyzing what's going on, and hopefully we put some profit in our pocket. And when we're organizing around profit in a profit-led business, instead of focusing on like top line growth, right, what we're really thinking about is how every decision and every dollar is impacting our bottom line, is making sure that we're going to be able to continually, in a sustainable manner, put profit in our pocket. And that shifts our mindset to being proactive in terms of our management because we're leveraging this for decision making, right? We want to be able to make good, timely decisions. So that means making sure that we're up to date with the information that's going on. So we're not going to wait until month end close or quarterly end close to be able to be aware of what's going on. We're going to adopt different types of financial protocols that allow us to have a better pulse so that we can measure what matters inside of our business in a relatively timely way, so we have good communication feedback loops, and then thus we can make better decisions with that data, right? That's going to be a non-negotiable so that we can ultimately align the business in terms of our strategy with our goals, our profit goals, right? So it's a shift of mindset. In order to shift this mindset, I forgot to update this. There we go. You'll notice I never edit these videos. Everything's a one and done. If you know what you're talking about, you should be able to shoot and work through this stuff. But sometimes things like this happen. In terms of blockers and resources, in terms of organizing around profit, the most common problem is lack of time, right? Is the constraints. And our primary constraints that we're dealing with from a capacity perspective when we speak with business owners is I do not know how to do that, or I do not have the time to do that. That's why with us in our ecosystem, we try to find solution partners that provide that service. And then the excuse or constraint becomes I don't have the money. And then that's why our performance-based capital is so awesome, because it's like, well, we'll fund it, right? Because you need it. But the primary blocker for most business owners in this situation is I don't know how to organize for profit. Good news, that's why we have the community and the resources to be able to get you there, or I don't have the time. Better news, you need to make time, because it is extremely important. This is one of the core pillars. Again, once we go through this set up all 4 pillars, then you're going to continually compound around 2 of them, which is organizing around profit and optimizing around people, right? Because if you do the 2, that's going to put you in the best, most sustainable position to put profit in your pocket for as long a period of time as possible. If you fail to do this, right, then you're leaving yourself exposed to risk. And a lot of what we're trying to do inside of the profit-led pledge and helping businesses become profit-led is all about risk reduction, right? Because if we can reduce risk, then we can increase the likelihood of returns or reward, right? Or profitability or sustainability, right, of the business. And that's our goal, right? So this is something that if you do not do it, then you're going to potentially put yourself at risk for making bad decisions, ending up without money, without profit in your pocket, right? And falling into the statistics, because at the end of the day, the odds are against us in terms of surviving 5 to 10 years in business, right? Internally, with the resources that we have inside of the community and what we're constantly doubling down in terms of optimizing and improving, we have the core templates in terms of the equity management system to be able to optimize or organize around profit. And that comes down to the know your numbers templates, right? We want you to know your numbers. We have the profit-led financial templates, which include the profit-led waterfall so that you can decide your allocations, right? And now you have your allocations, personal goals tied to your know your numbers, profit-led budgeting, North Star budget templates. And then ultimately all of this ties back to your profitability scorecard, right? Because at the end of the day, everything that we're doing inside of our business is to improve that profitability scorecard consistently, over time. The second pillar that we're going to work through is standardizing around product. And, oftentimes I'll leave product out of conversation because I have a personal belief system that, companies, if you're a great business owner and you've been able to build a great business, that means you have great people, right? And ultimately, if you go through this once and you go through this twice and you go through this a dozen times, your business is just consistently getting better over time. And really what you're doing is you're continually organizing around profit as the business owner, and then you're optimizing around people because people are your business, right? And great people build great businesses. And that's why we want to optimize around people over time. And then over time, in my humble opinion, things like product, becomes less of an emphasis, right? When you're first coming to market, when you're first building your business, product is everything. You're trying to find product market fit and you're trying to get your go-to-market strategy correct, right? But once you're going, ultimately your goal is to stay in business. And times change and products change, right? So you can't be a product-led business if you plan on being a sustainable business that's going to last, for centuries, right? Or decades, realistically. However, if you're instilling the right process and the right culture, right, inside your team and your people, and you're making good financial decisions because you're organized around profit, then your ability to continually develop and design and implement and bring to market new products is very high. So for that reason, I'm not saying that product's not important, because product's very important. You need to provide and build and deliver an exceptional product that delivers an exceptional customer experience. I'm just saying that over time, it falls out of the conversation as in terms of a core focus, because it just becomes a byproduct of the culture and the processes that you're following inside of your business and the company that you're building sustainably, right? So when we talk about standardizing around product, what do we mean? We mean that it's about creating a reliable and a repeatable system for how your business delivers its core products or new products or services, solutions to your customers, right? And a great way to think about it is like if you were to think about how money flows through your business, right? How you acquire customers and how what you sell customers and how you deliver what you sell to customers and how you retain customers and hopefully get more customers. If you follow that, realistically, that's what we're standardizing around, like the throughput of the business. And it really is designed to ensure that the value your business is promising to the customer is consistently delivered, right, in a repeatable manner, that the quality assurance can stay high. And by standardizing, right, and ultimately that's what we're doing. By standardizing, we can get to the next pillar. A little pull back curtain, it's going to be simplifying, but by standardizing, it lays the foundational work for us to be able to pay attention to and fine tune the processes that go into consistently producing the results that you're trying to achieve for your customers, right? In a predictable or reliable, right, high quality manner. And that's very important because it's going to set us up significantly for the next step. So when we're talking about standardizing around product, it's heavily consistent around process, and sometimes folks will get confused between, are we standardizing around product or are we simplifying around process? Standardizing around product is quite literally the foundational approach to be able to simplify around process, because there's a set amount of inputs that go into your ability to build and deliver your product, right? So ultimately, at the end of the day, standardizing around product increases the efficiency, and it's going to increase the consistency of your business operations, of what you're selling and delivering to your customers. Because it's standardized, it allows your team member, your people, to do the same things consistently, effectively. And, because of that, the efficiency increases this. They're becoming more efficient and they're becoming more effective over time, which increases your productivity, right? And that's what you're trying to do. Instead of every single try having people like reinvent the wheel and try to figure things out new. That's not a way to drive efficiency and productivity inside your business. A standardized approach also is going to ultimately reduce errors. And because you're reducing errors, there's a good chance that you're going to increase the overall consistency of quality. And that consistency of quality is what your customers experience. And when they, experience a consistent product consistently over time in a repeatable manner, that's typically when customer satisfaction goes up, word of mouth becomes, real, your brand equity starts to increase. So there's a lot of real key benefits in terms of standardizing, around product. In order to adopt this pillar, you're going to shift your mindset. And it's all around systematization, right? The key thing that goes against folks when it comes time to standardizing around product is like they try to get away from like a systems thinking, or they feel like when they adopt processes or systems, they lose the soul of the business. It's not about that. It's really about, think about your customer at the end of the day, and what you're trying to do is take a mindset shift that puts the customer first, because your goal first and foremost is to deliver a consistent experience to that customer. And the way you do so is by productizing. All right. If you happen to resist that mindset, if you don't want that, then that's when folks don't tend to systematize or productize. And then in that situation, you're leaving yourself with a lot of inefficiencies, and the inefficiencies become risks for the business. And again, everything we're doing is all about reducing and mitigating risk. In terms of the EMS system and how we help support, we leverage and adopt methodologies for you to be able to map that throughput of your business, right? So we have profit mapping, profit engine mapping, customer journey mapping, and people engine mapping. And ultimately what that's going to allow us to do is to identify all of the inputs that go into achieving your desired output. And then ultimately that gets us into a next step where we can start to measure what matters. So you have the right people into the right roles, doing the right things with the right resources at the right time to get to the right outcomes. And that's allowing us to get into, pillar 3, which is simplifying around process. And again, what you'll notice is that these pillars, they come together and they start to really work together. They make each other better and they build on each other. And then ultimately we can simplify the focus of the business down to just the 2 core pillars. In terms of simplifying around process, you're trying to strip away from that productized approach. You're trying to strip away anything that's not necessary. And you're trying to really kind of get it down to the bare bones, right? I use the analogy of I think of myself, if I was an astronaut at SpaceX and I'm going up into space, which to me is a crazy thing, I'd much rather be in a rocket ship that's made of 3 parts. And I've mastered how to fix and build each of those 3 parts, as opposed to 3 million parts where I'm like, what is going on here, right? It just makes me feel a little bit better. And as a business owner, a business with less processes that's getting the same outcomes should be and feel like a more comfortable business to be in, right? Because there's less going on. It's leaner, right? You can run it more efficiently and effectively. Hopefully there's time savings, which that time savings ultimately gets passed on to your people, and it increases their happiness and it increases their sustainability, right? It's also going to reduce costs. So there's a lot of benefits, right? You're simplifying processes. That's going to reduce operational costs, right? So you're going to, be more agile, more lean, right? It's going to ultimately allow for faster decision-making and quicker changes based on what needs to happen, which is going to help your sustainability. And it's going to, ultimately reduce the amount of time it takes to train people in your business to do things productively, right? And also inclusive in that, it's going to help your people be more efficient and effective, which will increase their productivity, which should hopefully increase their output, which would hopefully make sure that you can hopefully compensate them either higher or compensate them the same with less time, which ideally should make your business be the best place for them to work, which means that you will hopefully never lose your folks, which is a core component of what we're trying to do here, is optimize for people for sustainability. In terms of simplifying around process, you want to take a less is more, or a lean methodology in terms of a mindset, right? You want to really value simplicity or efficiency over complexity. And you got to ask questions. You got to be willing to continually challenge. Why can't we do this better, right? Why is it done that way? What happens if we do it like this, right? What are the core constraints right here? What is the blocker that needs to be removed, right? And you're constantly just optimizing through your business, and you're refining and refining and refining. Think of it like wind blowing through a canyon, and it's just like refining those grains of sand down into the best possible thing. In terms of blockers and resources, right? At the end of the day, typically here, the people become the primary blocker in terms of process, because folks don't want to, simplify process. That it makes them feel like less important sometimes. Sometimes just documenting process in the first place makes them feel like, maybe they're replaceable. Usually the people are the blockers here, but if you can get to the people on your side and you can show them how by doing this, you're optimizing for them, they're going to make their life better, and you can align incentives, then you can overcome those challenges, right? Great way to do this is to empower folks by running retrospectives, right? If they lead the retrospectives of how they're improving things over time, and then you give them budget, now you're investing in them, and that changes perspective, right? Also, documentation and keeping things simple, critically important. The final and fourth pillar for us is optimize around people, right? And another mistake here, I put phase instead of pillar. Update that. This is the fourth pillar, right? And what we've done is we've sandwiched, right? So the first pillar, organize around profit, and the last pillar, optimize around people, is ultimately sandwiching the other two in the middle, and they become the endpoints become the focus in the next stage. Once you lay your foundation of EMS once, people are your greatest assets, right? And at the end of the day, ensuring your folks have a culture, right, of accountability and engagement and high performance. That's how you're going to drive the most productivity from your team, from your people, from the business in which you're investing in, right? And ultimately, it's what allows folks to have the highest level of satisfaction in their job. And typically when people are happy with what they do and they look at the market and they're like, man, I can't really go anywhere else where I can make more money, right, and do the same thing that I'm enjoying better, then they'll stay. And the goal is to be able to get people to stay with you, retention of talent, top talent, because folks become more efficient and effective over time, right? Optimizing people creates high performing, motivated team and aligns those people with the business goals. Everybody moves forward in the same direction, in the same boat, rowing in the same direction to achieve the same goals and outcomes. And then that becomes a part of the cultural component, and it reduces the turnover and increases the overall loyalty, right? Folks are bought in, they see the vision, they see the purpose, they see the mission, and they understand what they get out of it, right? And you got to make it clear what they're getting out of it at the end of the day. But when you can get this right, then people are going to be hyper loyal, right? And they're going to love their job. That passion is going to come through in the product, because again, product is important, but product is a byproduct of people, right? So if you can get this right, all of the other things start to get right. And then all of a sudden your profit just opens up, right? And it ensures that everyone's accountable, because it's a structure, strategy, and accountability that truly at the end of the day drive simple product profitable outcomes. And it requires productivity, innovation, always be optimizing, right? Ideally, so you can optimize around people. And this requires a people first or a people led leadership team. You need to truly see your people as your greatest asset. And you can't see them as a cost center, where unfortunately a lot of business owners think of people as like a cost center, and it's really just a value driver. People are the folks that are going to drive your business forward in the most valuable possible way. And ultimately, that's what's going to drive the sustainability. And it's going to, ultimately, if you can foster the right type of culture, it's what makes the business bigger than any one person, bigger than the original founder or the current owner. And that's what grows sustainability and creates a transferable asset over time that you can ultimately truly exit out of, whether it's exiting passively with somebody else running the business on a day-to-day basis with the same standards and culture in place, or actually truly transferring it to new ownership because it's a transferable asset. You've built an asset, right? When you're optimizing around people, you're building an asset. That's truly when you're able to truly exit, right? In terms of blockers here, it's really typically comes down to like the friction of accountability. Folks don't necessarily like to be called on their, what, right? So, having a culture of accountability is the hardest thing to ultimately adopt, because it sometimes feels the least comfortable. But when you do, it starts to really, have this flywheel effect. And that's what we're trying to do with the flywheel of communication, right? The communication flywheel and our reporting cycles, so that the transparency of reporting, allowing for retrospectives and more collaboration and communication to take place. And then as long as people know what to do and they're not thinking about it or questioning, should I, right? If you can just make it very clear in terms of a calendar of accountability, then you just simplify and you let people get to work and do what they need to do best, right? If you are disingenuous about, the importance of the culture, or you're doing this and it comes off, this is actually where a lot of private equity firms do go wrong, is they try to promote like vision, purpose, mission, and sometimes even founder-led businesses, to be honest, they leverage culture so strong, vision, purpose, mission type of stuff, and it comes off almost like disingenuous, like it's not real, and the people don't truly get behind it, and thus because of that, there's no lift in productivity to actually kind of disincentivizes people, disengages the workforce, and lowers productivity. And then turnover increases. When you're turning people over, it costs money to have to go out and find, attract and hire new talent. And then you're training, attract, train, and then retain that talent. And that's just expensive. And now you're just seeping out profit, productivity, right? And that's how you lose profit from your pocket. So at the end of the day, unblocking this should be a top concern. The resources that we have are tied to templates inside of the EMS. And this is one of the areas that we're constantly thinking about, and we're always optimizing ourselves. I mean, we're always optimizing everything, but the ability to optimize around people, because the concept of a workplace culture and how to approach this type of stuff, it's always changing, it's evolving. There's always new things that you can ultimately implement. And then it's around simplicity, right? Less is more to be able to achieve the optimal outcome. But calendar of accountability is a core thing, because you don't want folks to think about, everything that they could or should maybe do. You just want to be very clear on what it is, right? And then from there, you can start to nurture the cultural components and the communication components that adopt, culture to be able to take place. All right. This is the core 4 pillars. And again, each one of these pillars you're adopting at every single exit, but the way in which you adopt it is going to be unique to the exit, to the stage, to the goal, and to the business, right? So these are just 4 core pillars that every profit-led business should ultimately adopt inside of the business and implement. And then the way in which you do it, that's the uniqueness, that's the bespokeness, right? And that's all about you. Trust the process, commit to the journey. Until next time.